Welcome to SORMAG's Writers Cafe, where we share the real writer's life over a cup of friendship, sprinkled with laughter and wisdom. My name is LaShonda Hoffman, and I'm your host tonight. This episode's sponsor is the Social Butterfly Promotion Membership. Sitting at the cafe with me today is Starrene, Rocque, Zenobia, and Parker J. Cole. Welcome, ladies.
Hi.
Hello. All right, we are going to start with Starrene to tell us a little bit about her book, and anything else she wants to share with us today.
Sure. So it's Starrene Rhett Rocque, and I am no worries. Like I said, it's a mouthful. So, but yeah, so I am a freelance journalist by trade, and also an author. I wrote a book called Bloggers Can't Be Trusted. Oh, I guess I should backtrack. So freelancing-wise, I've written for various publications, Essence, Fast Company, Complex, all over the place, really. And I wrote a book called Bloggers Can't Be Trusted. It came out in 2016, which is crazy to me that it's been that long. Yeah, so I self-published, and it's, to describe it, I guess I would say it's like romance comedy. It's basically about a jaded journalist who she gets really frustrated with her job, frustrated with the industry, frustrated that, frustrated with where the blogging and social media world is or frustrated with how it's taking over. And so she's kind of like stuck. She doesn't know. She wants to make moves to do something else, but she's just so bitter that it kind of sticks her. And then she meets this really sexy singer, rapper, actor guy, and that kind of thrusts her in the spotlight, and then she becomes blog fodder. So now she has to figure out who is this mysterious blogger making up all these crazy stories about me. So that's Bloggers Can't Be Trusted. And that's pretty much it. Oh, I live in New York, Brooklyn, New York, and I have a daughter, and I'm married.
You look like New York is in the house today.
Yeah.
You want to read an excerpt from your book?
Oh, yeah, sure. Okay, so let me set this up. So my main character, her name is Nyla Barnes, and she is, like I said, a jaded journalist. And she meets this man who is like, I guess the best way to describe it is he's kind of like a Drake, Idris Elba hybrid. She interviewed him, and then he like kept pushing up on her, and she ended up just like kind of falling for him. So this excerpt I'm about to read is from their first date, and I just have to warn you. So his name is Olu, and he's from London. I cannot do a British accent, so we could just imagine that any time he's talking to her in a British accent. And yeah, let me okay, we'll get this started. So okay. It was 6:45 when Olu texted me that he was downstairs. I did one final check of my dress, hair, and makeup just to make sure I looked yummy enough for him to be impressed, but not so much that I looked like I was trying too hard. My hair was usually in twists, but I decided to wear Bantu knots this time, since that was a style that I got the most compliments on. I stepped off my building stoop and spotted Olu standing in front of the backseat portion of a luxury town car with tinted windows. There was sort of a Billy D. Williams circa mahogany kind of cool about him, but with millennial sensibilities. He was tall, dark, lean, delicious, and looked fly wearing a black T-shirt that read, "I rep the diaspora." It was in funky red, gold, and green bubble letters that were trimmed in white. He also had on dark blue jeans that fit just right. Thank goodness they weren't skinny jeans. And he was wearing some throwback Nike Heineken Dunks. That indicated that he was a sneakerhead because those kicks were definitely rare. I was impressed and decided not to try to front like I was too cool for once. "Bruh, are you wearing the Heineken Dunks?" I said. He smiled and pulled me in for a hug. "What you know about the Heineken Dunks?" "Okay, don't let these sandals fool you. I have quite the sneaker habit. I've had it since I was little. The Heineken Dunks have been on my list for a long time, but I can't find my size. He looked me up and down, but lingered for a moment on my feet. 5 and boys, huh? Yep. Yeah, my sister has that same struggle, but now I can just get accustomed. How's your sister doing anyway? I loved how you gushed about her during our interview. I slid into the plush back seat as Olu opened the door for me. Yeah, that's my baby. She's good. She's moving to Cali in August to start her freshman year at USC. She got in? That's so dope. Yeah. How about you? You got any siblings? Nah, I'm an only child. I have cousins my age, though, so I wasn't always totally lonely. He smelled like Izzy with old Dizzy, poor home. My favorite scent on a man. I noticed him still sizing me up from my peripheral vision as the driver pulled off. He was intense. I didn't mind, but I still had to summon a little bit of tough girl, even if it wasn't genuine. And I'll leave it at that. That's where we are. That's where I'll stop.
Thank you. That was a good snippet.
Oh,
I'm sorry I messed your name up. I put an A on it like people do.
It's no worries. People always do that. People always do. Back to the snippet. I always struggle with what snippet to read. It's always like a nerve-wracking thing for me.
Yeah. I've had all the podcasts I've done. I've only had one lady who did the accent, and he was African too. She did really well. I was surprised.
I would not complain myself. Olu, I didn't give out so Olu, he's African British. Like his parents are like Nigerian and Ghanaian, but he grew up in London. Yeah, no. Mm-hmm. I wasn't about to play myself with that accent.
You ready, Ms. Zenobia?
Yes, I am. My name is Zenobia. I am an author. I'm originally from Syracuse, New York. I lived in Virginia Beach, though, for most of my time, and now I'm here back in Syracuse, New York. I have self-published 3 novels. 2010, Too Fast, Going Nowhere, 2012, Lost Ones, and 2014, Lost Ones Part 2. I'm also a screenwriter and director. I've turned one of my books, Lost Ones, into a short film. This 2019, we entered the film festival circuit. 2020, and I won a total of 17 awards for my short film, Zenobia's Lost Ones. Most of my books are in the genre of urban erotica, and the new film that we will start to shoot here in March, The West End, based sort of on my life. And I think that's pretty much it. I can read an excerpt from my last book, Lost Ones Part 2. I think that's again, and I did that in 2014. Let's see here. I'm going to read from Lost Ones Part 2, Twisted, and it's page 63. Today was an eye-opening experience for me. My children don't really need me anymore, and Sasha said a mouthful. I hurt for my child. She was just like me, wanting her father's love, and Dexter wouldn't give it to her. I wanted to sing. I grew up knowing our father, and he was spit and polish. He didn't take any mess. Daddy worked 12-hour days at the Ford plant, came home, ate, shit, showered, and in the bed. He never had time to talk to you. I wanted different for my family. Dexter made the money, and we tried to take vacations together, but in some ways he was just like Daddy, never there. I wanted my husband back, but I think it's too late. I feel sometimes as if I am in mourning, wanting that old feeling again. Driving back, Sasha laid across the back seat. I watched her fall asleep, just like when she was a little girl. I wonder what she thinks of. I look at her beauty and envy her dreams. She wants to be a woman who doesn't have to depend on a man. I wish I had been that strong when I was younger, and maybe I would be in a different place right now. In 2 days, Sasha will be gone, and I have a feeling she won't be coming back. I wish Dex could just let up on her. I guess I had a part in this as well. I just wanted her to see her potential and live life with no regrets. I know she's going to do good things, and it's along the way that disturbs me. I am surprising her by flying to New York with her. I was not going to let my child just go to that big old city and not check this school out and see where my child will be living. As we pulled up the drive and Sasha jumped out, she had no words for anyone. Dexter let me out and just drove off. He was in such a rush to get to his horse. His BlackBerry stayed busy all day. He used to lie to me and tell me he had to work late on a case or a meeting, but now he doesn't say a word at all. And that's my excerpt. The book itself, again, is more of an urban erotic tale, so I just, I'm going to keep it clean right here and just read what I can. I can be reading that.
Just leave us hanging. Thank you.
Yes.
Parker, you ready?
I sure am. So I'm Parker J. Cole. I am an author, speaker, and podcaster. And my bio reads, I'm an off and on recovering Mountain Dew and marshmallow addict who writes to fill the void, the sugar left behind. So that's who I am in a nutshell. I have an eclectic number of tastes that range from all sorts of subjects. So it makes me one of those type of people that can flow with a lot of different conversations. So I had to laugh with my two compadres here because in one of my books, I have people who have accents as well. But if you were to ask me to do their accent, it would be murder to have it happen. Just absolute murder. One of my characters is from the Caribbean. And, yeah, go. Good luck with that. So I'm not going to be able to do it. I hope you can imagine their accent there. So the book I'm going to read from, my excerpt from, is called The Butterscotch Bride. I primarily write sweet and inspirational Christian romance and also Christian edgy romance, depending on who you talk to. My primary works are historical, and I do have some contemporary and some speculative fiction ones. So this one I'm about to read is called The Butterscotch Bride. It is a plantation romance, for the lack of a better term. And what's unique about this book is that it's talking about plantations from the enslaved point of view. And as most people are familiar with the book, Gone with the Wind. I read that book when I was a kid, thoroughly enjoyed it. So in a way, this is my Gone with the Wind. I put a sweet context to it because I did not want to focus so much on the horrors of slavery, even though I don't whitewash what happened here. So this is kind of like my fairy tale, if you will. In this particular excerpt that I'm going to read, the main character, her name is Parmelia, is helping her mistress, whose name is Lydia, get ready to go to Mobile, Alabama, where the story takes place. And her mistress is upset because she has to marry the new plantation owner that bought their plantation when her father unexpectedly died. So that's the setup. Mother said I have to marry Leonidas come next year. She shook her head, the blonde locks bouncing against her shoulders. Parmelia briefly admired her own handiwork for creating the curls that made her mistress look so fetching. She would have done the same to her own hair, but Blanche had forbidden it. How can I do that when I know what he did to Daddy? What Master Duncan did, he did to himself. Lydia glared at her. Leonidas took advantage of my father's weakness. Parmelia pursed her lips. They'd had this conversation many times over the past few weeks. Did he? No one can take advantage if they didn't have a hold to begin with. Master Duncan gave Mr. Sage the advantage when he gambled. The small white hands on the vanity curled into fists. Now I have to pay because my father can't. Parmelia knelt next to Lydia. Things could be worse, you know that. Mr. Sage didn't have to take care of the family like he has. He's giving you a year to grieve before he takes you as his wife. He'll probably make lurid use of me in the marriage bed, Lydia retorted, her mouth pinched and drawn. Parmelia made a sound of sympathy. Lydia turned away from her reflection. Do you remember when Ellie Mae Jaspers told us how her husband treated her on her wedding night? He hurt her thing fierce, but by the time she counted to 60, she said it was over with. Thank the good Lord for that. I'll have to suffer the touch of those rough giant hands of his on my delicate skin. Lydia shivered and crossed her arms over her chest. Parmelia thought of the man who kept evading her mind. He had hands bigger than Leonidas's. Would she welcome his touch? Her cheeks flamed. Why in the world would she be thinking about that? Maybe it'll be all over by the time I count to 40. Returning her thoughts to the conversation, Parmelia arched a brow. 30? Lydia giggled. 20? They laughed in delightful wickedness at their inappropriate, sinful conversation. Neither of them knew what they were talking about, except for what was told in whispers and what they gleaned from snippets of private conversations. But it eased the strain for her mistress's face, and that alone made it worthwhile. Standing, Parmelia smoothed the creases from her dress. Now that you've packed your things together, let me go get my own. Don't forget to bring the Lydia. Parmelia and Lydia spun around from their prospective positions to see Blanche's silhouette outlined in the doorway. Leonidas stood behind her, dressed in a fine dark suit, with his dark hair plastered against his forehead. Parmelia exchanged a look with Lydia. How long had they been there? Did they hear their conversation? And that's a snippet from The Butterscotch Bride.
Ooh, that was a good one, too.
Yes,
Thank
it was.
you. All right, ladies, let's just jump right on into the conversation. So what has surprised you the most about being a published author?
And am I first?
Yes.
Oh, right. Okay. I think what surprised me the most is, just how layered it is. Like when you make the decision to publish the way you want to publish, like whether it's you get a book deal or you self-publish, it's just a lot of work. And I think writing pulled up some unexpected emotions, not necessarily tied to, well, no, it was tied, some of it was tied to the work, but like just feeling like, is this even good enough? You know, like just the range of emotions surprised me. Like I knew it would be emotional because you're attached to anything you create. I just didn't realize it would be as intense as it was. I thought it would just be a little like, you know, just that common worry about, oh, will people like this? But it dug deeper than that. It was just more about sometimes carrying certain things from the characters and then also my real life stuff. I hope that makes sense. I don't know, but that's one of the things that that surprised me, I guess. Like, I hope I'm answering your question. Like, definitely the emotions tied to it.
That's a different way to look at it. Because you do go through a lot of emotions when it finally hits. You know, especially if you've been waiting a long time to publish.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and it finally
especially
gets a little.
Especially if you do it yourself.
Mhm. Yeah, doing it yourself is a whole different ball game because you make all the decisions, and then then you got to hit that button to say it's ready to go.
Right.
That's a lot of emotion because you're like, woo. yeah, I definitely understand.
To jump in, though, because I've self-published all three of my books, I've never had a traditional book deal. Mm-hmm. I'm always, the characters, I love them. I love the stories. I honestly know where to cut it off at, but the day before I release it and it's out there, I have nerves like I don't know what, terrible nerves. You're thinking to yourself, who's going to read it? I hope they like it. What reviews am I going to get? When I jumped in with my first, and I just always wanted to be a writer, and I knew I always tell people the first time I ever got a big chunk of money, well, tax time, I decided to do it for myself because I had it felt like the story was getting stale. I had been trying to woo publishing companies and, nothing was happening there. So I said, I'll put it out myself. So it didn't even take that much money when I found out. I self-published, and I made the crucial mistake of buying, like, thousands of books. So now I got these thousands of books that I got to try to sell. And, it took me almost 6-7 months of hitting barbershops, beauty salons on the corner out the trunk of my car. I would take 1 weekend a month and drive to Philly and try and sell them. The next month, I'm going all the way. We made it all the way from down to Florida up to Brooklyn, selling books out the trunk of my car. So that was like a mistake that I know afterwards. And then, well, you sell and you get your name out there and the word and the buzz. After that, I felt so comfortable and at ease that I said, let's do it again. And that's what I know as a person that's self-published. I don't know I just don't know. I don't know how it would have been any different if it was if I had a traditional book deal. I would have loved to have gotten one, but it just didn't happen. But I felt like I shouldn't have to wait. I should do it myself. I felt like I was, these stories are hot, and then I kept getting the feedback that the stories were hot. So I kept going, and then, that was like a big surprise to me. That it is a lot of work, but guess what? You can do it. You don't have to wait on the publishing company.
I think if I could add my 2 cents, because I'm what you call a hybrid author, I self-publish and I also have traditional contracts with publishers. And I think what's really interesting about being an author is the sense of vulnerability that you have. Because when we create, we are adding our self into our creation. It's a unique discipline that I don't think any other discipline has when you're an artist, because an artist in itself is an expression of the soul. It feeds the soul. And when people consume your art, their soul is nourished as well. Think about when you hear a song and you are depressed, right? And you want to hear a sad song because you want to have the connection of that song with how you're feeling right now. Or when you're having a really good day, you turn on a song that makes you feel good. You may be jamming in your car, in the shower, wherever you are. Just like when you want to read. Like I read fiction, a ton of fiction, all sorts of fiction, all over the board, and I use fiction to escape. Especially if I'm having a bad day, I want to get a book where my problems fade away. Mostly a romance book of many different genres. I read romance all over the spectrum, but I love romance, and I read romance. So it's interesting how art really nourishes the soul, and it's the one thing that I think we should never throw away, which is that expression of the soul. So I think it's the vulnerability that, for me, asks the question, because these are your kids, and you want to make sure that, hey, this is my child, isn't she beautiful? And someone goes, nope, it's the ugliest thing I've ever seen, or they say, oh, this child looks beautiful, or so I think the vulnerability is something I struggle with. Every book I've written, I still struggle with that sense of vulnerability. I get better at dealing with it because you do have to have a tough skin, because I've read books I didn't like, and nothing you could say could make me think that they were good. And I've seen movies I've hated that I'm mad that I spent money on, so it's like it's all subjective. So I think that's my answer to the question.
Yeah, the vulnerability is the hardest part as a writer, and I think that's why my books stay in the closet, because very vulnerable. So
Stay up in the closet.
That's why it's taking me so long to even come out, because my book came out in 2016, and I thought I would have more books out by now. But I have things that I'm just not ready to part with yet. So definitely,
I feel you, because I published my book. It was nonfiction, and I just knew the next year I'm going to publish the rest of the stuff that I've been sitting on forever. And I was like, I went and did other things. I let my mind talk me into doing other things. Mm-hmm. And last year, I was supposed to publish, and, we had the COVID, and I used that as an excuse. And this year I realized that I've been using those excuses for a long time, and I realized, like Parker said, it is vulnerability. It scares me to death. I'm like, I don't know. I don't want them hurting my children.
Exactly.
And I realized that, like Zenobia said, you can do this. You can publish your own books. You've done it before. You just have to do it again. And so I'm in the revision stage now, and hopefully I'll be sending it to the editor, and I will be doing this again. I'm not scared about what these last 5 years, but you have, as a writer, you really have to have confidence in yourself. And that's hard. Nobody can tell you. They can tell you all the steps to do, but until you implement it, it's not going to get done. My stuff's been in the closet for 20-some years, so it's I got to realize that I can't pull them out one at a time and do them. So that's the hard part.
And you have to understand, like, there's something for everybody. I tell myself this all the time, because there's times where I see, I read books that I'm like, that was terrible, or like same thing, like I watch movies, and I'm like, that was terrible, but somebody liked it, and I find this, especially with books, like there's certain books where people might turn their noses up, like, oh, I would never, read that genre or whatever, but that genre might have thousands of fans, so there's something for everybody. I have to tell myself that all the time, like even what I think, like, I'm probably not going to write something that's as terrible as the stuff that I think is terrible, if that makes sense. Like, somebody's going to find it and like it.
Yeah. I'm telling myself that's one of my posts I always say is that there's a book for everyone. I really believe that, and that's my duty that's what I, as a book promoter, it's my duty to find that reader and introduce them to that book. And I do believe that. I'm going to tell you a movie that I didn't watch when it first came out, Sharknado.
And you see, I'm the person that likes those crazy movies.
Look, I've been Sharknado one weekend. They did a Sharknado marathon, and I laughed, and and that inspired me so much, because I said, they made 3 of these movies, and people was watching them. It wasn't like it went on and it flopped. So there is an audience for everything. Even Sharknado, the sharks flying around in the tornadoes.
Because they're on like part 10.
When they were in space,
somebody to give you money to make that, because they had to make that. That wasn't a
movie.
That was a movie. And so whenever you think about your stuff sucks, think about Sharknado, and that it's a successful movie.
You'd be surprised what Hollywood pays for.
Right. But Sharknado actually,
some of this stuff, I'm like, okay,
it's kind of funny.
Sharknado was amusing. It was.
Yeah, it was very amusing, and that's what I ended up watching all 3 of them. My husband kept coming back to my, I thought you weren't going to watch that.
It was good bad.
I said it was so bad, and you just got to finish it. You got to see how it is.
Right.
That is very true.
So, that's it. So how are you ladies interacting with the readers now and during COVID time? How are you meeting new readers?
Social media.
Yeah, social media, online.
That is Twitter for me. It's where a lot of people seem to find me.
Okay.
I have a Facebook readers group, and what I do occasional live videos. I've done live readings. I make sure that if I'm writing a book, I engage them in the book process itself. Like, for example, with the Butterscotch Bride, I asked them, because I don't have any children, and so, I'm sorry, not The Butterscotch Bride. One of my other books, The Butterscotch Bride, is a standalone prequel to my other book called A Groom for Altar. And in A Groom for Altar, the beginning chapter, she's having a baby. And I don't have kids, so I asked my readers, hey, I want to have a scenario where my girl has back labor pain, because I heard that from another girlfriend, and I need you to help me make sure I accurately portray her having back labor pain and her having a baby, because in the book, she has no idea she's actually having the baby until she starts to feel the urge go through her. And so the readers threw me all their baby stories, and I'm reading through them. One lady actually bit her nurse. And so the nurse eventually slapped her, like, don't bite me. And I said, I would probably do the same thing, too. You don't bite me. But she said she was biting her because she was in so much pain. I said, well, get what, how in the old movies they have, like, rubber spoons or something, and you put it between their teeth? Like, get one of those. And that's what I do. I try to do a lot of reader engagement. I try to let the readers know what I'm working on next. I want them involved in the process. And it's been really impactful to have their help, because they feel as if they're helping you write the book as well. So that's how I engage with my readers, especially during the pandemic.
Do you recommend a reader's group? I'm sorry.
Online and chat rooms, and I just joined Clubhouse. I really don't know how to gauge that still. I don't understand that whole concept yet, but I bounce in and out of different rooms, and I find that people, they look you up online as well. So
Clubhouse has been good for that.
Yeah.
I don't know about Clubhouse yet. I'm an Android user, so I can't even join in the conversation. So.
I love Clubhouse. It's a really fun app if you use it right. There is a huge book community on there, and I've been telling my clients that you just go into the rooms. They're going to give you an opportunity to come up to the stage, and that's when you get them. You get up there and you showcase your wings. You say who you are. You talk about your book, and you talk about it enough that they want to go buy it. I've hosted rooms where people were like, "What's the name of your book again? I'm on Amazon now. Let me download it." And people buying books, So it just really depends on what room you go into. I was asking Parker, do you recommend, now that, we're in the midst of this COVID and going to be stuck in for a while, having a readers group for authors?
I definitely recommend it. And I've had my readers group now for several years, but I wasn't actively doing what I do now. And what happens is that when you have a readers group, whether it's on Facebook or some other medium, you help to give a sense of intimacy with your readers. And so they can ask you questions. They can talk about a book. Another author I know, she writes Christian urban fiction. And so she, I remember I was in her group looking at her video, and her readers were, gunning her with questions, asking questions. She was interacting with them. They had questions about the characters, and she was there to answer them. So it builds that intimacy between the author and the reader. And that becomes extremely important when they can have that connection with you. I'm not Stephen King, because I like horror. I'm not Stephen King, okay? If I was Stephen King, we wouldn't be having this conversation, right? But I'm not Stephen King. But imagine if I was Stephen King, and Stephen King came to me and was like, "Hey, Parker, what's going on? How's your day going?" Going great, Mr. King. He's like, "You got a question to ask me?" I had one, but it totally went out my head, So I had one lady, she won the contest in one of the books I did. And so because I asked her to name my twins in one of my books. So I chose her names, and I put her as a character in the book. And so when I called her, talked to her, I said, "Call me on my phone," or whatever. She was like, "Oh, my gosh, I can't believe it." I'm like, "What's going on?" She said, "I'm so excited talking to you." We talk all the time. But she really felt that connection because I called her, I invited her input. So that's why the groups are really good at building intimacy with the readers. And even like your group, LaShonda, with your group online, people know who you are. They can go ask you quick questions. They know you, okay? And they know you'll eventually get back to them. You can ask them questions, all that kind of stuff. So I really, in my opinion, having a readers group, even if you got 2 people in there, deal with 2 people that'll come and you can talk to them. So it doesn't matter how many's in there. I do think it's something that authors should invest their time into.
Thank you so much for saying that, because that's one of the things I teach my clients to start a readers group, and to start it soon and grow with your readers versus trying to get them 10 books in. But a lot of them have a hard time because they think they have to have a lot of people in there. You know, one of my clients, I think
that was why I never started one.
She started with 4. And I don't think she has a lot in there now, maybe 20 at the most. But they're active. They talk to her. They ask her questions and stuff like that. And I told her those readers are priceless because they read the book, then they come and talk about the books, and they share with you.
Yeah.
They give you information. And a lot of people don't want to commit the time to it. The thing about a readers group is if you have a fangirl, like that lady was your fangirl, I call it, they will, if you ask them to be the moderators, they think that's the best thing in the world, and they become the moderators. And so you just have to pop in when you have to pop in, you know, and then you treat them like royalty. They get the finished book when it comes out. They get the first book that comes hot off the press.
Yep.
You send them swag and stuff like that. Those are your fans for life. And the reason I know this because I used to be a fangirl. I used to be the one who talked about the authors all the time, and before I got into doing the magazine. And I remember that when the author called me on the phone about passed out. Oh my God!
Yeah,
you know, I was that fangirl. It's amazing.
I remember one lady. I'm sorry. I mean, one lady. I live in Detroit, and so she said, "Can I meet you?" So we met. And we went to Red Lobster in Detroit, and she saw me. She's like, "Oh my gosh!" And she literally hugged me for a full minute in the middle of Red Lobster. And she said, "I just love your work," and that just made me feel some type of way because she's like a super fan. Like I could write taxes and she'd buy it. And so she's a super fan. It was a little humbling. Because the fact that your words can make an impact in someone's life,
right?
The fact that whatever you write, you don't have to write, whatever. But it's the fact that your words really do bring life, and it affects people around them. Like they could read, my compadre stories here in different ways, and they're having a good day. They're like, oh, I'm escaping from problems in my life. I can be here or resonate with this story. So that's why. When I always encourage people who want to write, I said, you don't know the gift that God's giving you to bless someone. No matter what you write, no matter what it is, someone can use those words, and they're so powerful. And so that's why I encourage people like that. So, am I talking too much, LaShonda? Because I'll shut up.
No, you're doing great.
Excited.
You're doing great. We're just at the cafe. We're just talking. That's good.
Okay. Making show.
I wanted to ask, what about writing do you wish other non-writers would understand?
Ooh, how hard it is, how intense it is. It takes a lot to really, especially when you're writing fiction, it takes a lot to really flesh out the characters, the plot, the storyline. Sometimes I notice when I'm writing, like sometimes you might repeat something and you got to go back and, the importance of going over to reread it. Like the whole process. I think people think writing is easy, and it's not.
Hardly.
Very, very meticulous.
I try to, whenever people ask me, I try to let them know it's not easy. I've had, I pay dearly for this. It's so many nice, weekends and nights and days that I'm constantly just working, where I could be hanging out, I could go to the club, I could do this, but guess what? I'm so enthralled in my writing and my characters that, I'm constantly writing. This is my boyfriend right now. It's not just sit down at the laptop and just crank them out. No, it doesn't work that way.
I think for me, non-writers think that we just sit here and just stare off into space and come up with stories, and also they think we're not real sincere. For me, I'm going to be a little more niche here. The romance genre gets a lot of flack, and it irritates me to no end because I see writing anything is difficult. and non-writers who go, oh, I don't read romance. It's just a sex book, right? That's what I get all the time. 'Cause I write sweet romance. I don't have sex scenes in my books. And so they're like, oh, it's just a sex book. I said, it's not a sex book. I don't write sex books. You know, I mean, I'm not saying I can't. I just don't, you know. And she's like, I'm sorry. I just remember the person who said this. So I'm trying to, like, you know, divorce the person from the thing. But they think, like, oh, it's really simple, or, oh, it must be easy. Or if they don't like the book, let's say they read your book and, oh, if I would have did this, if you had asked me, those type of things really irritate me. Those things. But they really disrespect the craft, because each book, I think, makes you a better writer, because you're going to make mistakes in the first one, because you're going to do the best you can, obviously. And then if you make a mistake, you say, okay, I'm not going to take my book down. I'm going to take what you said that's constructive and build on that. So I think when non-writers give you non-constructive criticism, like, oh, I thought it was stupid, that doesn't help.
Right. I'm so glad you said that. That gets under my skin. Like, if people just let's say it's a rating system, and then they can leave a comment and they just leave you 1 star and then don't say anything, you know, like, okay, why would you just leave me this rating? Like, I hate that. Or like you said, oh, this was stupid, or I hated the main character. Like, okay, but I need layers. Like, give me something.
Like one reviewer in one of my books I wrote, one reviewer was like, I wanted to throw punch this character, right? And so, because she hated it. She absolutely hated the book, and she left what felt like a 4-page review on the book, right? But at least she told me why she hated my book. Okay, at least I know. But when you get, oh, this book should be taken off shelves and it's stupid, and you kind of go like, why? And there's no answer. So, and then when one lady said that, I was like, you can look online. All my stuff is online, so it's not like it's a secret, you know. But I was just sitting there like, well, that's not helpful. And then there's this one, I have one troll, honest to God, LaShonda, I have one troll. I know exactly who she is. I can go to her Facebook page right now and pull it up. For some reason, she hates my books. She said, I don't like this author's writing. Okay, why do you continue to buy the books? You know what I'm saying? Like,
right.
Like, you know,
so she keeps leaving. Stalker.
Yeah, 1-star reviews. It's like, well, you keep paying for the honor of hating my books. So since you keep paying for the honor, I'm not going to say a word. You keep paying for it. So I don't. It's like getting change from a robber. You know what I mean? Like, you know, you give me $20, they give you back 10. It's like, okay, you know, all right, whatever.
Yep. I have to tell my clients that don't get upset when you get the bad reviews, because they read the book.
Right. And sometimes people might pick up the book just to see how quote unquote bad it is too. So
right. That's usually what happens, because people want to see if it's really bad as they say it is.
Yeah, I mean, it still hurts though. It still hurts. Like, I can't lie. I'm usually like a don't look at the comments type of person, but when it comes to my book, of course I want to see like if there, you know, what the feedback is. So that's always hard for me to balance. Like, okay, do I want to beat myself up, or just go ahead and you know, put on my thick skin and try to do this? I mean, thankfully most of the feedback from my book has been good, but there were those negative comments or like the unconstructive criticism too. So it's hard to balance that. You do tell yourself like, okay, you know, not everybody's gonna like it, but sometimes some of those comments, oof,
they hurt. And you look like it hurts. And you look. That's what I say. It's like your child. Like, you just told me my kid is ugly. You know, who wants to hear that? And that's like, that's enough to take you back in the back of the building. You know what I mean? It's like, you know, you're looking for kids. But for me, I think for me, what has helped, like, I expected, like, I always wait for, like, the first low critique. Once I get it, I can breathe easier. Like, okay, it happened. We're done. Okay, it's done. Now I don't have to. I just get the first one. I remember my one girlfriend, you know who she is, LaShonda, Piper. When she had her first book, I remember she had a cake. She was like, got my first little review, and she had like a cake on her Facebook. And she was like, yeah, I got her first review. What cake should we eat? She just made a game out of it. You know, and I never forgot that. It was several years ago. I never forgot that, because she was like, got my first review. What kind of cake should I eat? And so everybody was weighing in what kind of cake she should eat to her first low review, because you get over it. You get past it. Okay, I got it. It's done. I'm probably going to get some more, but you were the first one. Thank you for breaking the ice. You know what I mean? You gotta play with it.
And you have to be like that, because, like I tell my clients, I think it's fishy if you don't get no bad reviews. Everybody gave you
Right.
5. Come on now.
Like, what's wrong? What's wrong?
Somebody got to
Why
hate
you
it.
doing
So, you have to be prepared for that. I'm like, I got my first one, and she's upset. I say, go ahead and have your pity patty cry for today. And then tomorrow you talk about something else. You go, you don't give me any because that's just one person's opinion. That's just one person when all the other people liked it. So, and I said, guess what? You about what? I said, they paid for it. He like,
exactly.
And I'm like, look, you ain't send them a free book and they dog your book out. They had to pay for it so they could dog it out. So take your money and keep it moving.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. Well, see, ladies, I told you it was going to go real fast. You didn't believe me.
Sure did.
Oh, wow.
I would like to thank our guests for sharing with us today. Would you like to tell us how we can get in touch with you online, ladies?
Sure. Yeah. Oh, no, you guys.
Okay. I'm at ZenobiaPictures@gmail.com. I'm also on Facebook, Zenobia Author, Twitter, Zenobia, IG, Zenobia Author, and also my website, ZenobiaBooks.wix.com/Zenobia. That's how you're able to find me. And also, just to promote, look out for the West End. That's my first full-length movie. We'll be shooting in March. And you can also find the trailer for my award-winning short film, Zenobia's Lost Ones. It's on YouTube under Zenobia's Lost Ones trailer. Thank you.
Okay. And you can find me on Twitter. Twitter leads everywhere. I'm on Twitter, Instagram. I try to keep my Facebook a little more private. I'm working on that though, because I do need to get this group popping. But Twitter, Instagram, Starrr _Rocque. That's ROCQUE. And yeah, that's where I'm at.
You can find me at parkerjcole.com. Everything you need to connect with me is there.
Thank you, ladies. I hope what our guests shared today was helpful for you. I want to thank our sponsor, the Social Butterfly Promotion Membership. Did your PayPal bling when your book sales goals for 2020, or did you only receive Starbucks royalty checks, money to buy you a Starbucks coffee? If you answer Starbucks royalties, I'm talking to you today. 2021 can be the year you meet your book sale goals. Join the Social Butterfly Promotion Membership today, and you will learn how to create a promotion plan, find your audience, and become a social butterfly. Learn how to rock your promotion inside the Social Butterfly Promotion Membership. Check the show notes for the links to join. I want to thank you, our listeners, for taking time to listen to this podcast. I have 3 questions for you. Did you enjoy this episode? Subscribe to the platform you're listening to so you don't miss an episode. Number 2, what did you think of the episode? Tell us by writing a review on the platform you're listening to or send it to SORMAG@gmail.com. Number 3, did you learn something from this episode? If you did, please share the podcast with your community. Would you like to be a guest on or sponsor for an episode? Contact me at SORMAG@gmail.com. One last question. Have you promoted your book or business today? If you haven't, go showcase those wings. Someone needs what you have to offer. This is LaShonda Hoffman, and I will see you on the next.